It's a really wet day today, and your house is designed to shed water away from it. But in many situations, neglect or improperly installed parts of your house allow that moisture inside, causing moisture-related issues. Do you know what to look for to find these moisture-related issues before they become a big problem? I'm Will, the home detective guy. Let's take a closer look. Let's talk about this roof leak. It's obviously a roof leak. You can literally see the water dripping onto the floor here. In many cases, a roof leak can be caused by a small damaged piece of shingle. It could have got blown off during a windstorm. There could be a small crack or a nail that's sticking through it. Roof leaks can be very, very, very small and cause an actual pretty big problem. But in many cases, what you might find in your own home is that you have a small leak that was caused by blown off shingle during a windstorm. Or you might, where you might see a small stain in the ceiling. And if you just let that small stain be and don't do anything about that roof leak, that small amount of moisture and that small issue with the roof leak is going to turn into a very big, expensive repair. If you don't do anything about that roof leak, you're going to get moisture buildup in the attic. You're going to get moisture buildup in the sheetrock. That moisture is going to rot out the sheathing. It's going to rot out your framing. It's going to cause mold to grow, like in the situation in this building. So it's not something you want to tread lightly with. You want to get it fixed immediately. And after a windstorm, the smartest thing to do is to call up a buddy or get your eyes out on the roof and take a look at the roof to make sure you don't have any damaged shingles. All right, so this is what a 20-year shingle looks like after 40 years. This roof is toast. It should have been replaced about 15 years ago, but they haven't done anything to it in 40 years. And right now, this is leaking like a sieve all over the building. It's time to be replaced, no question about it. So 3-tab shingles like this one only last about 20 years. In my experience, in many cases, it's less than 20 years. But if you're going to have a composition shingle installed in your house like this one, you're better off going with an architectural style shingle. They last longer, and it might cost a little bit more money in the beginning, but it's going to gain you way more life of your roof, which is going to save you money in the end. Half of what you're paying for when you have a roof installed is the labor. So think about that. So in many situations, you're not going to see moisture issues that are this bad. This is kind of a worst case scenario. It's on the back of a building. Nobody realized what was going on, and it took years for it to get like this. But commonly on your own home, you might have a small area of siding that's really close, and it might be covered by vinyl siding, which doesn't rot away, but the sheathing behind the vinyl siding, that might be rotting away, and you wouldn't even know it. So go around your house, take a look, and just make sure you've got like at least 8 inches between your siding and the ground. If you don't, pull the soil away from the house. Maybe put crushed stone in so that when water does hit the ground there, it soaks in and gets away from the siding. So right here is a perfect example of what you want to see between the siding and the ground. Right here, there's about 8 inches or so of space between the siding, which has wood sheathing behind it, and the ground, which is going to prevent this from soaking moisture up from the ground, which leads to those moisture-related issues we were talking about, like carpenter ants, mold, and wood rot. Another super common moisture issue that we find in houses is what I call the splash zone effect. So basically, rain runs off the roof, splashes off an object like this entry deck, and soaks the siding next to the deck, which causes moisture issues like wood rot and carpenter ants and mold, which are nasty things you don't want to be seeing in your house. In this situation specifically, you can see where the rain is splashing off the deck as it drips off the roof, splashes, and it's soaking the siding. You can literally see the outline of the moisture where it's holding against the siding here. And in this scenario, the metal siding isn't complete under the door, so it's just allowing all that water to go right inside, soak the sheathing, soak the sill plate, and soak the framing behind that, which is rotting it out, and it causes a really nasty issue. So one of the easiest things to do to fix this situation is to install gutters over that splash zone. So right over this deck, at least having gutters above that. Ideally, you have gutters all the way across the roof line. So this is the inside view of that splash zone effect that we were talking about. So if you look close, you can see the water staining that's coming through and soaking into the wood from that rain splashing off the stairs. And it's soaking in and staining all the wood. It's been rotted out once. They've actually already replaced the wood here once, but it's still an issue, so it's going to have to happen again if they don't fix that splash zone effect issue. But what you can also see in this area is signs of carpenter ants. So if you look at the cobwebs here, you can see fine pieces of frass. It's like a powdery wood material, and little tiny black insect parts that are from carpenter ants. Carpenter ants will live in the wood and they dig holes through the wood basically, and they kick out the frass material along with their dead insect parts, and that's what they leave behind. So a key indication that you have carpenter ants is that moisture staining, because carpenter ants love wet wood, and then that frass material, which is, like I said, powdery, and it's got little black pieces in it. So that's what you want to look for. And if you see this in your house, you want to look outside and fix the moisture issue that's causing it, which is that splash zone effect. Another common moisture related issue that we find in houses is this white powdery residue on this concrete foundation. This is just efflorescence. It's just mineral deposits, mostly salt. You can sprinkle it on your food if you wanted to, but don't. Basically what happens is moisture pushes through the foundation because concrete is porous. And when that moisture pushes through, it hits the basement air in this situation, and it evaporates and leaves behind the minerals. And like I said, it's mostly salt. It's not mold. You don't have to worry about that. Mold is a lot more scary than this is. But what you do want to do is make sure that you clean this off, because what can happen is that salt content will actually draw extra moisture to it. So by leaving the salt there, you're exaggerating that moisture related issue. So the easiest thing to do is to mask up, grab a brush it off, use a vacuum or a wet sponge. If you use a wet sponge, you won't need a mask. Most people don't realize that concrete is so porous and that moisture is literally pushing through it as we stand here. You don't see it because it evaporates when it hits the air, but that small amount of moisture over the entire surface of the concrete in your basement adds up. And if you finish over the top of that concrete, or you finish on the wall and press materials up against it like non-treated wood or sheetrock, what do you think is going to happen to that moisture that is leaching through the foundation? It's going to soak into that material and cause mold to grow, cause rot, cause a whole lot of nasty things. And in so many situations, a finished basement isn't done properly. In this situation, the basement floor, they use KD lumber here, which is not treated. And what's happening is the moisture from the concrete below is just soaking up into the wood. You can see the moisture staining. There's mold growing under this floor. There's a whole bunch of rodents and probably carpenter ants too in here. This whole entire floor needs to be ripped up and this needs to be started over because they didn't use the proper material to finish the basement. When you're finishing a basement against concrete material, you have to use approved flooring and approved wall structures, like laminate flooring that's designed for it, or a moisture barrier and an air gap to keep that moisture at bay. Like I said, moisture is always coming through concrete and it needs to be treated as a wet spot. So you don't put untreated wood against it, and you don't put sheetrock against it, because all this material is just going to soak that moisture up and cause those moisture related issues like mold and wood rot like we see here today. Common moisture issues also lead to common mold issues. For more information about mold, check out this other video. I love helping you all out, so I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. If you did, please like and subscribe to my channel so that you can see more helpful tips about your home.